Good morning, you guys. Sorry for the short delay. There was a bit of problems getting onto the stream this morning. There's probably a lot of people streaming, especially in the wake and the aftermath of everything that happened in North Carolina. The situation is shaping up to be essentially one of the largest disasters in the last, significant amount of time. I don't know, 100 years. And there's a lot of disinformation out there. And I remember having a discussion with you guys talking about AI and its role in essentially letting the controllers off the hook. Here's the headline now. Everything's getting whitewashed. Everything is getting confused. Everything is becoming unclear. Why? Because artificial intelligence they're now saying there are pictures that are fake. And there probably are, but who is the source of those pictures? Who's disseminating all this misinformation out there to muddy the waters? Pun intended. Muddy the waters about the truth about what is going on. This was all by design to let the controllers off the hook. We talked about this about 5 years ago. We were talking about how these artificial intelligence images came onto the scene right about the time that there was all this evidence of elite wrongdoing in these trafficking cases and things like that. And they showed people with other people that weren't real. And we all remember when all this came about. And I was telling you the purpose of all of that wasn't to make cool pictures that looked real but weren't. The true purpose of it was to provide cover. And now they are using this strategy to basically say that anything outside of the official story is fake, that all these pictures that people are showing and posting online are all fake. They're AI generated. Well, what about the video that people played of helicopters trying to rescue people and were turned away? You know what makes me upset? There was actually an individual who had his own helicopter who was there trying to rescue people. And guess what? The one person that they show that is rescuing people is some famous NASCAR guy. Why don't you show us the real people trying to help over there? We don't want any more celebrities. So this is the state of being here. It's very frustrating because the truth is not getting out. All we get is these whitewash headlines saying that, FEMA is doing their job and doing everything they can. I even saw some crazy post about, if you say anything negative about all the $58 billion that we spent in Ukraine, that gets censored. You're not allowed to compare the two. And guess what their out is on that? The two have nothing to do with each other. This is money that's pre-designated and pre-earmarked by Congress for certain things. And those are separate piles of money. Well, we don't buy that anymore. It's all one big pile of money. And whatever you say about what's earmarked for what doesn't matter to us. What matters is that a certain amount of money is going to a foreign country and a certain amount is being used for our citizens. And they need to fix that if they represent us as citizens. All of this could have been taken care of. All of it could have been taken care of with all the money we've been sending to other countries. And they don't want that story out there. They don't want that story out there because then they know people would wake up to the truth that our governments do not represent us anymore. Now, I wanted to open the show with that just to give you guys an update, just because this is timely information that needs to be talked about. But now we're going to get into the long-awaited Megalopolis. And I'm going to call it MAGA-Flopolis. This is about the worst movie I've seen all year. But this movie was heavily talked about and promoted because it's a Francis Ford Coppola movie. It's the new science fiction epic starring Adam Driver. And I knew this was going to be loaded, but I didn't know how loaded it was going to be. Then later on in the show, we're going to break down elements of 2 other time travel films that just released that are somewhat related to Megalopolis. Now let's begin here. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for waiting. Sorry for the delay there. This isn't a very good copy of the movie, but it takes place in the far distant future of a world that is fashioned after ancient Rome. And it opens actually with hints of time travel, or at least the ability to stop time. Now, this is Adam Driver, and he plays a character named Caesar. And basically, his goal, he's a multi-billionaire. His goal is to erase all the debt in the world and to build his utopia where everyone can live and be in perfect harmony and peace. And it all sounds good until you begin to break down the elements of what this utopia entails. Let's take a look at this opening scene where he stops time.
Time stop!
Now, at this point, the film starts to look into these decadent parties that they throw because the elite and rich have all the power and control. And here's one such party riding on a white horse. Let's take a look. Now, the whole vibe here is do what thou wilt. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, it's basically moral rules and social norms are out the window. And it even gets into all kinds of weird stuff. It was just a weird movie. Now, there were rumors that Francis Ford Coppola was basically perving on all of the people that were working with him, like kissing everybody and hugging on everybody in the cast. And people were upset about it, but they didn't do anything. Now, Shia LaBeouf is in the film as well. We all know who he is. He plays a snobby, wealthy heir who is out of control. And at one point in the film, he cross-dresses into a woman for the majority of the remainder of the film. Let's keep watching this here. Now, here's Adam Driver, and again, he plays Caesar. Catalina is his name. And they literally say here, literally, that he is of the blue blood family. Well, let's take a look. Let's back this up a little bit.
The blue blood crosses family wins a Nobel Prize. Caesar Catalina. The blue blood crosses family wins a Nobel Prize.
So they give him a Nobel Prize. Again, he has the ability to stop time. So here we are in the first 5 minutes of the film. They've got blue bloods with special abilities, stopping time. We've got the white horse riding in, which we were talking all about from Revelation 6:6. Now understand that this blue blood term, this term that we used, came to prominence on this channel about 8 years ago. We started talking about it. There's actually a documentary called The Blue Bloods. And since then, they've made cop TV series called Blue Bloods and other direct blue blood references. So it's a thing now. But if you look back on the channel, we were talking about this, talking about the rise. I think the documentary is actually called The Rise of the Blue Bloods. And it tells you everything you need to know about all of this before any of these shows came out. And now they're just mentioning it like it's no big deal. Next, you're going to hear a random reference to an object that we just covered a couple weeks ago from a TV series that released way back in May of this year. Let's take a listen. This is shocking. Let's see if you guys can hear it, and I'll go in the chat after I play this clip here.
Invention of the Megalopolis, a miracle building material.
When he himself lighted his quietest make with a bare bodkin.
Where's my vodka?
Did you guys catch that? Let's go into the chat. Now, this chat's been behind a bit, just the nature of streaming, I guess. But he just said Bodkin. We just decoded Bodkin. TV series from Barack Obama, from Netflix, from his production company. That was like a week or two ago. And this confirms the Saw-Win connection. Remember, the object, the bodkin, is a large needle with an eye in it. Remember? And the Barack Obama TV series called Bodkin, it's literally called Bodkin, which is what Adam Driver just said. The TV series is all about the Festival of Samhain and portals opening. We decoded the entire series. And then we get a mention of it in this. Now that was, listen, Bodkin was a random TV series that we just decided to decode. The timing is amazing. This is why I follow God's timing. Because it all fits together like a puzzle. Everything in order. So there's another Bodkin mention. Now, next, there's actually a tree mention. Watch this part here. You're not even going to believe this. He's holding up a graphene pencil. And he's going to talk about a tree and comparing humanity to a tree. While he's holding the graphene pencil, watch.
Humanity has an old tree with one misguided branch called civilization.
So he sees civilization as a misguided branch, as he's basically trying to sell the public on his idea of a utopia, cutting off civilization, which led to war, cruelty, inequality, poverty, and slavery. Again, it all sounds good, but the utopia is a place of sin. Now, at this point, you see signs of hints of inbreeding throughout the film. Now, in our documentary, The Rise of the Blue Bloods, I talk about this inbreeding. I talk about it in that documentary from like 5 or 8 years ago. And they do this so they can magnify their special abilities. And so we hear mentions of this in the film as Shia LaBeouf basically wants to hook up with his sister. And they also speak of having romantic interests in their own cousins and things like this. So it's a thing in the movie. Wow. Now let's keep watching here, because then we learn that Caesar wants to build this utopia called Megalopolis. But the mayor is in opposition to change. He's not a person that wants to accept change. And so he's standing in the way of this utopia. Let's keep watching.
Imagine today's society, a branch of civilization, about to reach a dead end. The city itself is immaterial, but they're talking about it for the first time. And it's not just about us talking about it, it's the need to talk about it. No, it's very simple. Best question anyone's ever asked. What kind of pizza place?
Now, we're going to back up here, because let's talk about the word Megalopolis, okay? It's obvious that the word contains Apollo in it. Polis, the root word, and it can also be used as a suffix or the back end of a word attached to words, actually means Apollo. It describes Apollonic cities. As you can see here, I looked all this up. Apollonic cities had the P-O-L-Y on it. P-O-L-Y means everything, is what it means. Polycystic fibrosis, politics, politician, police. And in fact, the rulers of the city also take on the Apollo name. This is why they're all named after Apollo. They enforce the politicians' orders like the police do. Now that we all understand that, because you have to understand that to understand this principality called Apollo, because it means everything. He is the ruler on earth. It's the devil. Apollo is the devil. He wants to be the Alpha and the Omega, which is blasphemy. Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega. Now, at this point, we get more gaslighting because they love to gaslight truthers like us, right? Who've already found all this stuff that they're putting in their movies. And he starts talking about pizza. And someone asks him if he's going to have pizza parlors or pizza places in his utopia. And watch the reaction here. It's pretty chilling.
To talk about it.
No, it's very simple.
Best question anyone's ever asked. What kind of pizza
Just a
places?
couple questions, just a quick statement.
How do you feel about your father bankrupting the city, Julia?
I'm going to play that back and look at Caesar's face. He says, what kind of pizza places? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Let's back this up, and I'll be back in the chat in a minute. I'm just trying to set the groundwork for this, you guys. This is shocking. He said this is the best question anyone's ever asked about pizza places. So this is obviously gaslighting. He's out, he's in front of the press and the media. Let's play that back one more time.
No, it's very simple. Best question anyone's ever asked. What kind of pizza
Just a couple
places?
questions, just a quick statement.
How do you feel about your father bankrupting the city, Julia?
Now, whoa, loaded, as I said, right? Now, we get to the point in the film, and they mention something else we've been talking all about since the Olympics. Remember the eternal flame that we talked about? The Vestal Virgins. We had a whole discussion about this after the Olympics. The Keepers of the Flame, which we also linked back to the new fire ceremony, right? This is all about an indistinguishable flame. There's actually one of these indistinguishable flames at JFK's gravesite, an eternal flame. Okay, now watch this. Here it is again. It's almost like they're watching this channel and like putting it in their movies. I don't know. Weird. Listen.
To Vesta, goddess of the hearth, whom Ovid calls Custos Flammae, or keeper of the flame. So these are the Vestal Virgins. So they have basically all the elements of ancient Rome in this movie, but it's a modern version. Okay. Now, look at how this scene matches up with the Olympic closing ceremony. Remember that? Take a good look at your screen right now if you're not watching and you're only listening, because you'll remember that they hoisted up the Olympic rings on these cords. And there was this weird, like, insectoid character running around. And as they lifted up the Olympic rings, which looked exactly like what you're looking at your screen right now, except this is a half moon and the other ones were rings, you could see the crowd in the backdrop that represented the cosmos and all the stars in the cosmos. You could literally put this image side by side with the images from the Olympic closing ceremony. But here's the problem. This movie was made a year before the Olympics. Wow. So this is one of the Vestal Virgins riding up on the half moon, the crescent moon, not half moon, but crescent moon.
You can see right through me!
She says, you can see right through me. Now, what they're doing here is they're celebrating her virginity because apparently this group of Vestal Virgins is supposed to be their way of saying we are moral. So they've got like 4 or 5 of these virgins. We're supposed to be chaste and holy. But the big secret is they end up that they were caught actually having sex. So they're not virgins. So it's a big joke. But basically they parade these virgins out in front of the crowd and they do like an auction. They like basically fundraise
for the cause of the virgins. And they raise billions of dollars in this arena here. And then somebody, it's actually Shia LaBeouf, he sabotages the whole ceremony and he plays video. He streams video of her with Caesar. So she's not a virgin. So this whole thing is it's just a mishmash of nonsense. Now, what else is going on? Well, this woman here that was caught on video lying about her virginity, her Caesar's friends go to investigate her to figure out what's going on, and they find out that she was born in Indonesia on June 6th. Watch this.
She was born in Indonesia. Huh. She came here when she was 6.
So that's, of course, the number 66, which we've been telling you is the Apollonic number. The white horse, Apollyon, Abaddon, Revelation 6:6. Okay. 6:6 also means twinning. So it's more proof.
She came here when she was 6.
She wasn't even born here.
So, of course, that's all about, they're kind of also picking on Obama there. Indonesia, wasn't even born here, right? They're all hints of all this stuff. Now, as the movie begins to come to a close, and thank goodness it did, because this was like watching paint dry. Worst film I've decoded all year. We get a MAGA sighting. Except it isn't MAGA, it's MERGA. Make Rome great again. And they even wear MERGA hats, red hats. I mean, this is shocking. Let's watch some of this footage here as everything begins to descend. So obviously there's Shia LaBeouf, and he's heading up this political faction of chaos, and they want you to be programmed to believe that this is all about Trump. Trump's just a player, you guys. He's just a player in the game to heighten the chaos. And there you see it, make Rome great again. And this is shocking.
And we are taking our country back.
So the streets descend into chaos, and here you see all the red hats. Now everybody's fighting for power. Okay, so you've got 3 different factions. You got Shia, you've got the mayor, and you've got Caesar. They're all fighting for power. And just before everything completely falls apart, Caesar opens the doors to the utopia, Megalopolis, and he saves the world from chaos.
There's still so much to accomplish.
They're all standing in front of this, and it's like Megalopolis has all this technology and free energy and all this other crazy stuff. And it sounds all great. And then the mayor finally accepts change, or he looks like he's going to. MAGA-Flopolis. Wow. But the problem is they don't tell you who's going to fund all this, right? I mean, all this is going to cost tax money. And here we are at the cusp of what appears to be a similar situation with Elon Musk and Donald Trump promising all this free energy, promising all these things. Trump has now pledged his allegiance, or at least pledged his desire to work with Elon Musk to bring in the new era of America. Okay. And this is not an America we want. It seems like the logical solution to the problems of the left, but none of it is a solution. It's all a bait and switch. Now, for the second part of today's show, I dug deeper into this Smith demon. Remember we talked about the name Smith a few days ago. Now we're going to hop off of Megalopolis and get into this Smith archetype. Okay. Now this is very interesting because here's what God revealed to me about all of this. The Smith archetype is all about smiting or hitting. And track this back all the way to the original demon responsible for smiting. This is the original Smith demon. Who was it? A fallen angel. The fifth fallen angel of the 200 who fell from heaven. Tumael is his name. He also goes by other names as well, but here is the Wikipedia on it. Tamael, they also call him Tumael, as well as Casdeja or Casde. Now, here it is in the book of Enoch, and they talk about smiting the child in the womb, in the embryo. Here is his name here, Casdeja. The fifth fallen angel who showed the children of men all the wicked smitings of spirit. This is Smith. And the smitings of the embryo in the womb, that it may pass away. This is, they call it the bite of the serpent. Abortion. Now, what this amounts to is the first ever recorded mention of the word Smith. And this gives a whole new meaning to the word tummy. You know, where the womb is. Tummy, tummy. It's all about word etymology, you guys. Now, it is likely, based on our research, that a needle was involved in the smiting of the womb. And this is why the needle is now used to do the same thing when they carry out abortions. Now, this was always, since the beginning of time, all about the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, wasn't it? It's always been about that. So let's switch gears off of that. And now let's hop into a couple of time travel films that I decoded over the last couple days. Here's one called Omni Loop. This just came out. Omni Loop. And then also another one I screened was called Things Will Be Different. So I captured some screen stuff for you guys, some screen capture. And both of these movies actually confirm the significance of the number 88 that we told you was connected to time travel. Let's start with Omni Loop. Let me give you the backdrop of this. Now, it's funny. She's looking in this time travel book and she sees the name Donald and she's got her finger on it right there. Make this a little bit bigger for you guys. You can see this. This is shocking. These people are up to. They can't help themselves. So, what is Omni Loop about? Well, it's about a woman who keeps imploding. Basically, she's got a black hole in her chest and she keeps resetting over and over again. Now, black holes, of course, they say are connected to time travel. So the fact that she's got one in her chest means she keeps imploding in on herself. And the film also shows the number 88 at least once. Wow. Let's take a look at this. Now, the heart is in the chest. So this is all about the serpent in the chest, isn't it? Remember, the heart muscle is one single strand of muscle formed into the number 88. So this is portal confirmed. Let's watch this. Look, she literally put her finger on the name Donald. Then this black hole opens up out of her chest. Now she's diagnosed with this, and she keeps going into this time loop, and she keeps waking up in the hospital with her family over and over and over again. And she's trying to figure out a way out of this loop. And then she realizes that she's the one that put herself in the loop so she could spend the last 10 days of her life with her family over and over again. So this black hole basically envelops her.
Mom, where are you? Why aren't you answering your phone right now?
Then we get the number 88 on the taxi cab, serving the keys since 1988. Now this whole thing takes place in Miami is where it's set. So there's one of her implosions. Because in the end, because before this, she was able to take a pill to prevent her from imploding. But then the pill resets her back 10 days before. She wakes up in the hospital over and over again. Well, finally, at the end, she decides, I'm not going to take the pill. I'm just going to implode myself. So she implodes. And at this point, she wakes up basically seeing the beginning from the end, like God would be, right? And then she finds out that she's the one that gave herself the pills as a little girl to be able to relive her life over and over again.
And she saw a little girl walking along all alone in the world. And all of a sudden, she could see the whole world, past and present. She could see it all.
Now, are these accidents that we picked up on all this before it happened? How is it that we're finding all these things later that seem to be depicted in these seemingly random films? Now, this goes a couple levels deeper because I looked into Omni loop a little bit deeper before we move on to the next time travel film. And it released on the eve of the fourth 88-day cycle in the year. It's actually the third. It released on September 20th, the eve of the third 88-day cycle of the year. Okay, so there's more 88 confirmation. In other words, 88 plus 88 plus 88 is September 20th, and it released on the 21st. I'm sorry. Yes. Now, what else did I find confirming the number 88 connection? Well, the main character was born in the year 1964, which is 8 times 8. And the supporting actress was born on the eve of 88 days left until the end of the year. She was born on October 3rd. So the cast is 88 all the way through. There's actually another character as well who plays a professor. And he was born on the 5th of November, another time travel date we'd already established. Here he is here, Harris Yulin. He plays a professor, and he was born on the 5th of November. So we're not making all this up. We're not stretching anything. These numbers are now confirmed. And it just keeps showing up too many times related to time travel. The date, the 5th of November, the 88th day of the year, all these 88s. Crazy. Now, I'm going to give you one last piece of information on this before we move on to this next time travel movie. Are you ready for this? The film, like I said, was filmed in Miami, and it's actually named after a real Omni loop. What is it? Named after the Metro mover in Miami. And they call this the Omni loop. It's actually here in the Wikipedia page. And guess what? The operating budget for the inner and outer Brickell and Omni loops in fiscal year 2007 was $8,888,000. More 88s. Do you see what's happening here? This is weird. None of this stuff should be here like this in these patterns. Why are we seeing the patterns? What's happening here? Well, this is the fabric of the matrix. Now, let's get into this last time travel film. And again, the number 88 appears once again. Let's take a look here. The film is called Things Will Be Different. And again, it's another film about a time loop. This time, it's a brother and sister who basically they use this house as a time portal. And there's this hidden entity that controls the house, but they're able to use the house to hide out and rip people off. They're kind of a crime couple, but they're brother and sister. But what ends up happening is they find themselves stuck in this house. They get trapped there by the controllers. And it's unclear as to the reason as to why, but they sit in this house for like a year trying to figure out a way to escape. Now, where does the number 88 appear in this movie? Well, each of them have a tattoo on their right hand. It's like a mark. What is the tattoo? Well, it's the vesicle Pisces. But when you put them together, as you're looking at it on your screen, it looks like the number 88. Let's take a look here.
Do you think we would have ever kept in touch if we hadn't gotten these?
Now, it almost appears as though they're in purgatory, some kind of purgatory, stuck in like this time loop. And at the end of an entire year of being in this house and stuck there, they're approached by a hooded figure with no face. Kind of like the same hooded figure we saw at the Olympics. Now, the hidden controllers basically tell them you have to kill this hooded figure. Let's take a look, you guys.
Show me your face!
There are 33s everywhere. There's a 33 on the stereo. 33 degrees outside. And at the end, they both end up just, well, she kills her brother at the end. I don't want to give you a spoiler, but that's the end of that time travel. So what are the odds that all these time travel movies have the same exact themes? The 5th of November, the number 88. What does it all mean? Well, I think we figured out what it means. For those paying attention and really want to know the truth and actually see the investigations from start to finish over the years and understand what this is really all about. This is deep truth, you guys, not for the faint of heart. Uncovering all this stuff. Okay, I'm back in the chat. Now, I decided to break up this show into 2 sections. Tomorrow, we'll be getting into Formula 409. And we're going to talk about 409,000 giants that were destroyed in the flood, according to the book of Baruch. We're also going to talk about what Formula 409 really means. According to them, they admit it. And we're going to talk about Trump and the Formula 409 as well, because it was all about sanitizing, wasn't it? It was all about sanitizing during the pandemic. This stuff goes deep, you guys. These are principalities of the matrix. If you don't know what they are, you'll walk right into their traps every single time. That's what we do here. We're identifying and calling out these principalities so you can steer far clear away from all this stuff. Because God does not want people to perish. He wants you to be educated about the deceptions and how the devil works so you can avoid it. The answer is Jesus Christ, but very few get to that path because they keep believing the lies. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. MAGA-Flopolis. Now, I would not recommend Megalopolis. Just waste time. Omni Loop is a pretty good film if you want to, investigate stuff. There isn't like a bunch of bad stuff in that. And let's see. The last film, Things Will Be Different. It seemed very confusing to me. It's very hard to wrap my brain around that film. So I just pulled out the symbolism. And so I probably wouldn't recommend Things Will Be Different because it's kind of complex is, I guess, the word I'm looking for. A lot of stuff went even over my head. So, all right. Now, why do we decode this stuff? Every once in a while, I got to repeat this because it's really easy to pick people off on this channel thinking, oh, what kind of Christian watches movies and decodes them? Well, the reason why we do this, Jesus came not for the sinner or for the righteous. He came for the sinners. And all the sinners are being entertained and programmed by all this stuff. So this is no different than going into the temples where all the Pharisees and scribes were and calling them out. This is the same thing. It's just a modern version of it. We're basically helping the people that are still watching and being programmed and entertained by all this stuff in hopes that they see a decode and they go, wow, wait a minute. That guy sounded crazy. He sounded like he was pulling random stuff, but then the same random stuff keeps showing up. And those are the people that will wake up. So this is a kind of ministry, isn't it? This is a kind of ministry that reaches people that might not otherwise be reached. Maybe these are people that, really bad things happen in their life. Maybe they lost their parents. Or they became very, very sick, or they're dealing with some kind of illness. And they sit at home and they watch movies, thinking that it's just entertainment. And then they go, whoa, God is real. Jesus is real. The people that make these movies can't stop talking about him. And what is this thing about the number 88? Why does this keep showing up? What does the 5th of November mean? And they go, wow, you know what? I'm convinced now that Jesus is real. Because there wouldn't be all this emphasis and this battle against him if he wasn't. So it's a kind of ministry. And maybe these people had been to a church already and they saw the hypocrisy and they saw that the church, most of the churches were basically sold out to the beast. The same churches that were telling them to go out and, get their shot and all this stuff. And they became disenfranchised from religion and God. And those are the people that we're trying to reach. Hey, it's not about walking into a church. It's about being awake. It's about giving your life to Jesus Christ. You can still love God and have faith and be a believer without being in these beast churches. And decodes like this are preparation for the end times. Now, if there was ever a better example, it would be basically everything we've been talking about for the last 5 years, you guys. The electric kingdom, lithium, copper. I remember saying that lithium was going to increase in value exponentially, and it has now, because the entire new kingdom is going to be based on electric. Despite what you might think about what Trump's going to do, he's already showed his hand. He's already showed that he's on board with electric technology because he just buddied up with Elon Musk. Do you think Elon Musk is going to close down his Tesla electric car plant just because Trump gets elected? Of course he's not. The subsidies will continue pouring in. And even though Trump's telling you he hates electric cars, he really doesn't. And then the governors are all on board. They're all mining lithium out of most of the states that have dormant volcanoes that hold the lithium. It's not going away. It's a big rope-a-dope. Unless you stand up and say, no more. We don't believe these politicians anymore. You're both compromised. You guys, on yesterday's show, I showed you A lot of these lithium companies, well, it's probably not a fair statement, but at least the one that we looked at yesterday in North Carolina, the guy was Chinese. So they're talking about, oh, we're going to, at least we can mine the lithium ourselves. We won't be dependent on China. But then they bring Chinese people over here to help run the lithium mines and the lithium plants. It's all a big rope-a-dope. And if we keep falling for the right-left paradigm, thinking people like Trump is going to solve it, or Robert Kennedy Jr. is going to solve it, if we keep thinking these things, they keep tricking us. The answer is Jesus Christ. You write in his name in the ballot if you're going to cast a vote. Imagine if 100 million Americans that were Christians actually stepped outside the right-left paradigm and wrote Jesus Christ into the ballot. I think Jesus would hear that, and I think his kingdom would come, maybe sooner than later, if he saw such a large outpouring of true faith in his kingdom, not this fallen kingdom. The Lord's Prayer, the central component of the Lord's Prayer, is that his kingdom come, his will be done. So our prayer has power to bring about the kingdom, doesn't it? But so few want to do it. Casey, we have to choose. What if the Democrats win? How many times have we fallen for that trick and nothing changes? Nothing changes. All right, you guys, I'm going to pop off here tomorrow. It's Formula 409, Steel and Stone. They actually have a Formula 409 for steel and stone. Who's awake today? What does steel and stone mean? Let's see who gets the answer. What is Formula 409 steel and stone? I'm in the chat. What do you guys think? Steel and stone. And we'll break this down a little bit more tomorrow, but I just want to get your take on what you think that means. All right. I couldn't even believe it. Iron and clay. Thanks, Sheldon. Yes, iron and miry clay. Watery clay, steel and stone. They literally talk about that. And you'll see why tomorrow, because Baruch, the book of Baruch, says that there were exactly 409,000 giants killed in the flood. All right, you guys, I'll see you all tomorrow. Much love. Take care.